Lovely. So we're going to start in a pose. We're going to start in our bolster rotation, but probably for most people you'll have a stack of cushions. If they're quite squishy, you'll need a few because bolsters don't have a lot of give. They're probably equivalent to quite a few cushions. It's going to stretch through sort of the lower back area, side of the hip area. So you just sit, I suppose, on one hip, let's say the right hip, and you have your feet just out to the side. So legs really however they're comfortable. You can do it without props entirely, but I think it's more comfortable to have something there. So you're going to turn towards your stack of cushions or your bolster, walking forwards, and maybe that's enough. You know, maybe you feel like it's quite tight and you need to stay there. Otherwise, you can keep coming down and then eventually just completely release the weight down over your cushions, over the bolster. And if you've got cushions or bolster and you're giving them a hug, it should be comfortable. So that's important. If not, come up, come out, add more height, or I will give you a different pose entirely. Really good. So I'm going to start the timer. We're just going to take a couple of minutes either side. And as we can rest the forehead down on the arms, on the cushions, we can allow the mind to rest, the brain to rest. So you're really just feeling your body here. And as we fold forwards, as we bow towards the earth, this is bringing us into the parasympathetic nervous system. So feel your breath moving in and moving out. Feel the breath moving in and all around your body, really taking notice of the breath and how you can move it where it's needed. As you fine-tune your awareness of the breath, automatically you're going to begin noticing the sensations in your body. This is quite a gentle pose. You might, gentle but effective, you might also begin to feel that softening of all the tissue all around that left side of the body. So you've got one more minute there. Should be fairly comfortable. Using this first pose as sort of a mini meditation. I mean, all the postures are a mini opportunity for a mini mindful moment meditation, whatever word you want to put to it. You might find it's very easy. Maybe the mind is quiet now. Or you might find actually the mind is creating a lot of noise this morning and you have to keep encouraging it back here to your breath, and that's okay. You're noticing, you're not judging. So then nice and gently use the hand. You're going to push yourself back up, coming back up to center. You can bring the legs out in front of you. Do use your core if you've got a bolster and it's heavy, otherwise the cushion's probably quite light. And bring the legs over the other side. So I'm sat on that left hip or the other hip and I turn. So I rotate towards my props. Maybe you sit here for a little bit if it feels quite tight. Maybe you start coming forwards and eventually the tummy, the abdomen comes down onto your support. resting the head, resting the forehead down on something. And then again, finding the breath, finding your way into the body with the breath. And in yoga, I mean, it can look like it's all about these physical poses, making shapes, maybe less so in yin yoga, but we use the physical body as a way in, a sort of a way through into the deeper layers of ourselves, of our consciousness. Because we know the physical body, that's the easy part to connect to, the physical energy, the physical world. But then once we've connected with our body and we begin to feel the breath, and it's easier to become aware of the more subtle layers, subtle sensations, and the emotional and the mental body as well, those different layers. So you've had a minute, you've got 2 more minutes there. If your mind wanders, if you become lost in thought, notice that and return back to the posture, back to your breath. You can count your last 3 breaths in the pose. And when you finish those 3 breaths, you'll very slowly bring yourself back up. So you can come up, you can release the legs out to the side, out in front of you, sorry. You can lie down with the strap. So we're going to carry on into the legs, into the hips, similar to last week. So you can begin by putting let's say the right foot up into the band or the strap or the t-shirt, anything that means you can grab hold of that leg. If the hamstring's really tight and you have to have the knee bent, bend the other knee, and then you can usually find a bit more room. Really useful self-adjustment is to take that right hand, thumb into the hip crease, fingers around the edge of the thigh, and you can push the thigh away and you push the hip away. So you just feel the thigh rolling out in the hip and you actually feel that length coming back into the torso, which maybe it got a little bit hitched up. So push it away and then hold on to the band and draw that leg in towards you. So we are just warming up, the body's cold, so you're aiming to feel it in the back of the thigh, back of the calf. If you feel it in the back of the knee, let it go a little bit, even micro bend the knee a bit, because in behind the knee is the attachment. That's not the goal, that's not the target area. Breathing in, breathing out. Feeling the leg beginning to soften, beginning to open, maybe noticing, has that thigh hitched back up again, or is that thigh still externally rotating in the hip joint? Take the band in your right hand and we're going to take it out to the side. The left hand is on the left thigh, the left hip. And as you take that leg out, it's important the foot doesn't start moving away from you towards the other foot. So it's coming straight out to the side. Other hip is rooted down into the floor. Really good. And so that can take some effort, keeping the other hip down on the floor. Really good. So you're breathing into that. You can think about reaching out through the heel. If it's quite tight, it can feel nice to actually just rest the hand under the leg, and then it takes the weight of the leg instead. So I quite like that one as well. You make like a little tray with the hand. Really good. Breathing in, breathing out, finding space in the inner leg, the inner hip. Really important as part of your practice. It can get really tight in here. Really important actually for pelvic floor health, to keep the pelvic floor stretched and relaxed. So in your own time, bring the band up. So we're staying with the band on this leg. Again, push the thigh away and then take the leg across the body. So I've taken the leg across the body. Now you might be there feeling a lot here, or you might get it all the way across and then you're feeling a lot there. So it's wherever you need to go to feel it in the hip. Good. You can think about reaching up and out through that heel that's in the band and pulling back through that hip at the same time. And that can make quite a lot more sensation. Really good. And this little sequence laying on the back, it's great for people with tight lower backs, tight legs, tight hips. Really nice one to do. I probably say it every time we do it, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to encourage you to stretch more. And then in your own time, coming all the way up, pop that left foot up into the band. Really good. Take that left hand, thumb into the hip crease, pushing that hip away, lengthen that left side of the body, find that nice external rotation. So you can even take the hands to the thigh and roll it out as well. Just giving yourself a muscle memory. Bend the knee if you need to, if the hamstring's too tight. And then draw that leg in towards the body. It's awful sound effects, these stretchy bands. Breathing in. Breathing out, finding space in the leg. Really good. Maybe feeling the leg opening up as you continue to hold the pose, and then eventually taking the band into that left hand. Think about turning your toes out to that left side. Hand can be on the thigh to encourage it to root down. You could point the toes. You can't see, but I could really point your toes. That can help push the leg down into the floor. Just taking the leg as far out as you need to feel the inner thigh. And then breathing there. Really good. Remember, you can place the hand under the leg instead if that feels better. One more breath. And then use the inhale, draw that leg up, take the band in the right hand. Again, you turn those toes out to the side or push that hip away as you take the leg across the body. Remember, one side can be quite different. Pushing that leg away, drawing the leg across the body, and then breathing there. You might push out through that top heel, draw down through that hip, create that own push and pull. I suppose this is quite an active way to do this pose. It's not really a yin pose, but this sequence is so good for the legs. It's a useful one to know. And then when you're ready, you'll bring that leg up to the center. You can remove the bands. You're going to cross the legs, hold the knees, round your back, and you're just going to rock back and forwards. This should feel quite nice, rounding the back and just loosening up all the tissue around the spine. Little massage. If you want to make it a little bit more fun, we call it round the world. So you could hold the ankles. You need to round the back, and you end up going round in a circle. Hopefully, some people get stuck, so you go all the way around. The actual pose for this is quite ridiculous, and then you come all the way up, but it's just really nice just to feel all the back is nice and warm. So we're going to come into dangling. So if you have very low blood pressure, then you can just sit on the floor, seated forward bend, and it will look the same. So your feet are as wide apart as a yoga mat, so wider than hip width, toes are turned in, okay? And you bend the knees. Option 1 is here, elbows on the knees, hanging the head down. And that might be enough. We're going to be here for 3 minutes, so you might stay here for a little while, just feeling the back beginning to loosen and lengthen. Or you can also hold the elbows and hang, noticing that the fold is at my hip crease. What you don't want is to be legs straight like this. That's not good for your back. So there's a bend in the knees to encourage that bend in the hips. So I'm going to start the timer. If at any point it doesn't feel good, then of course you can come out. Relax the head, the neck, the jaw, and just notice what's going on in the body, the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body as you hold these different shapes. Some people like to sway a little bit side to side. Some people like to remain still. And so you might stay there as you are, or maybe for the final minute you want to interlace your hands behind you and hang the arms over the head. Now, if this is really not accessible, sometimes using a band so you can have the hands a little bit apart can mean that you can take the stretch, but it's not only for the shoulders. As soon as you take your arms over the head, you're going to be feeling more stretch in the hamstrings because it's pulling the weight more forwards over your legs. Really good. Soft bend in the knees so we can decompress the lower back. And then when we come out, we need to think about coming out slowly. So release the hands, release the band, place the hands on the knees, the thighs, and really push into them as you pull the tummy in. Keep looking down to the floor. Looking down to the floor as the blood settles, and then all the way up to stand. Really nice. So you might want one of those cushions under the knee. We're going to come into the dragon sequence. Have your left knee behind you and your right knee in front of you, and then it's going to make all the left and rights will hopefully make sense. Left and rights are hard when you're all in a different place because you've all got different reference points. Really nice. So there is your foot and your knee are probably about hip width apart to begin with as you lean into our dragon low lunge. So left knee behind, right knee in front. You can think about the hips, so the hips square, and you might find that that will just get a little bit more. So you might be feeling it mainly quad, you might be feeling it up here, it might just be a bit everywhere. And you can push into the thighs. You see that I come into a gentle back bend. If you have issues with the lower back, you might want to stay more upright. And as you do go back, you might want to think about drawing up through the front of the hips, through those lower tummy muscles, just to support that back bend, the extension. So hopefully now you begin to really feel and connect with the front of that leg. You might like to stay here. If you'd like to make it a little bit more intense, you can begin reaching the arms up. The arms don't have to be straight. You could bend the elbows. This is more accessible for a lot of shoulders. And then you're thinking lift up through the chest, through the front of the body. And just by lifting the chest, already I begin to feel more in the front of that back leg. Breathing in. Breathing out. The hips are leaning forwards as the front of that leg's open. So you might say, my hips are not leaning forwards anymore. That's fine. If they don't want to lean forwards more, keep them where they are. They might even come back. If it gets too intense, let the hips come back. Really good. So then we're going to come into our twisted dragon. So you're going to place the left hand down. So same hand as the back leg down, other hand on the hip, as you turn towards the front leg. And so then I begin to feel it more up near my hip flexors. That's just my body. And then if you want, you can bend the back knee and maybe you can find the foot. If you don't find the foot easily, I would just leave the foot down on the floor. You can put a strap on the foot, but if you're using a belt on the foot and then you pull too much, you can make the hamstring crack, which is quite unpleasant. So I would just, if you're feeling enough, stay there. Turning, you might reach the arm up. Breathing in, just feeling more of an opening through the chest. Long breaths in. Long breaths out. Really good. And then you can place the hand down inside that front foot. I'm going to swivel so you can see. So you're going to want now to take that foot wider. So whereas it was just about hip width apart, it's now what would be on the edge of the mat. Yes, great. And the hands just inside and you're leaning forwards. Adjust. So, winged dragon. Now, it might be enough to stay here, and please know that you can stay here. Otherwise, you can lift the toes, swivel out onto the side of that foot. I think you're going to feel a lot in the side of the hip round the back. Okay, so if it's too much, swivel the foot back. You can, from here, also play around with coming down. So some people might end up with elbows down on the floor. You might even turn again and gently encourage that knee away. Breathing in. Breathing out. So we've been in this sequence 3 minutes already, which is why probably it's starting to feel quite intense. And that's really the whole point of yin yoga, is holding these poses, probably longer than we think is a good idea, but really giving the tissue time to open and release. Really nice. We've got one more before we take our counter pose. So coming forwards, bring that foot forward and we're going to lift the back knee up. So tuck your toes, lift the back leg, flying dragon. You're really pushing up through that back thigh. This leg is active, front leg is active too. For one, if it's too much, you can put the knee down. Really good. Few more breaths here. Push up through the back thigh, push away from the floor with your hands. Really good. And then when you're ready, you can put the back knee down, send the hips back. So you might just be here, fingertips on the floor. You might bring that leg back in, so the hands either side of the foot, so you can take it wide, half splits, or sort of traditional half splits. Feeling in the back of the legs. If you need to, bend the knee so you can get the hands down on the floor. Breathing in, breathing out. Think about that adjustment. Hand to the hip, moving the hip back, drawing that hip back so it's in line. Really good. You've got a few more breaths there. Feels like it's got to be over now. And then in your own time, you can release that leg. So you might just come to all fours, give the hips a little shake. You might want to come to a downward dog, pedal out through the legs, or any position that feels nice. And really feeling that left leg, feeling the right leg, feel the difference between them. Then we're going to come into the other side. So you've got your right leg behind you and your left leg in front. So you've got that hips width distance, knee in front. So you're leaning into the lunge. Oh, I need my little camera minion, get my head back in the shot. So you can rest the hands on the knee. You can think about, are the hips square? And it may be actually that you don't want them completely square, but you can play around with the angle of your hips that gets best into that back leg. Lifting up through the chest. Remember, if you're in that back bend, lifting up through the front of the hips as well. Breathing deeply, breathing deeply. Maybe reaching up the arms, maybe the arms are straight, maybe the arms are a little bit bent, wherever feels best on the shoulder, and then thinking, lift up through the chest. You can even put your hand up on the chest, pushing up into that hand to make sure the front of the body is lifting. It's a big front stretch. Stomach and spleen meridian lines, really good for the digestion. Lovely. And then from there, your right hand comes down to the floor, your left hand comes to the hips. So there is a leaning forwards of the hips. That's the direction of travel. And then there's a turning of the chest up towards the sky. Really good. And this might be more than enough. As on the other side, you might bend the back knee. Maybe you can find the foot, maybe not. Just finding sensation and then breathing there. Really good. So we'll come into our winged dragon. So you can release the foot if you've had the foot. Hand comes inside the leg. Maybe heel toeing that foot out to the side. Still leaning forwards. Lift the heel. Swivel out. So you're aiming for the side edge of the foot to come down. That might be enough. You might be bringing the body down closer to the floor. These are just ideas. I give you as many variations as I can think of, because everyone's hips are quite different. Maybe you're turning towards that knee, gently encouraging the knee out to the side. And I say gently, you're not shoving the knee, you're not putting your whole weight down through the knee. Long breaths in. Long breaths out. Give your body time to open. And then when you're ready, coming back up, bringing that foot back parallel, flying dragon, tuck the back toes, push up through that back thigh. So I'm not sinking into the hips or crunch, go the hips, pushing up through the back leg, pushing the floor away with my hands, breathing there, nice deep breaths in, nice full breaths out. Just a couple more really active legs. Push through both feet. And then you can pop the back knee down. Let the hips move back. So coming into that hamstring stretch. Remember, the knee can be bent. The foot could come in the middle. Drawing that hip, that thigh back into the hip as you fold. Relax the body as much as possible. And then just as you did on the other side, slowly draw that foot back, coming into a neutral position. Any position that feels good. Maybe you're back in downward dog. You might shake the hips out a little bit. And then finding stillness wherever you are to notice the left leg, the right leg, and how much you've woken up all the areas around the hips, around the legs. Then you can pop the knees down, sitting over to the side. So we're going to take a little bit on the upper body before we come back down into the glutes, into the inner thighs. So you might sit with the legs crossed. You might sit with the legs out in front of you. So with the shoulders, we're just going to roll the shoulders back. You might feel some crunching in the shoulders. That's quite normal. Slow rolls back of the shoulders, rolling the shoulders forwards. And then taking the arms out, so the elbows are bent, rolling the hands down and back. So the movement might be a big movement, it might be a smaller movement. This is internal rotation, external rotation of the arms in the shoulders. Really good. So you're not feeling pain or pinching, otherwise you're making the movement smaller. Really good. Just encouraging space. Really nice. And then you can take those arms out to the side. So palms face down, or just little circles. So you're circling the arms in the shoulders. The arms might ache a little bit. And then circling the arms the other way. Really good. And then you're going to take hold of the band. So this is shoulder flossing. And you may not do the full movement. Okay, take the hands in front of you. Oh, you've all got stretchy bands. These are the really comfortable ones to do it with. So you're going to inhale up, and that might be enough just to take the hands back a tiny bit and then exhale down. Otherwise, if you have more mobility in the shoulders, the hands can eventually come all the way back and then all the way forwards. If it's really easy, you're taking the hands closer together. Inhale up, exhale back. So the closer the hands are together, the more intense it will feel on the shoulders. Really good. So we'll take a few of these. Inhale up, exhaling back. Inhale and exhale. Really nice. Just feeling that stretch through the front of the body. Really nice. I love this. Shoulders don't have to be particularly warm to do it. I will at least circle the shoulders a little bit. So good for everyone's shoulders. Just like the name as well. Really good. Lovely. So you should feel all warm around the shoulders. Lovely. So we're going to take a different cross of the legs. If the legs are crossed, one arm comes under the other. So eagle arms, it could look like this. It could look like this. So notice my shoulders down as I pull the arm across. It could also look like this. So I'll give you all the variations. Full poses like this. Really good. You might be happy where you are. The elbows might come up in line with the shoulders. This is really around the rhomboid area, around the upper back. So use that connection to your breath to breathe into the upper back. And a useful thing is to think about someone's hand being here on your upper back, and you're breathing into the hand. You're breathing behind the heart to really encourage that movement of all the connective tissue at the back of the body. Really good. And then you can release the hands, maybe just push the hands out to the side, let all the blood flow, take a little pause. And then we'll come into the other side. Other arm comes underneath. So remember, you could be gently pulling the arm across, taking, wherever you need to be to get that movement in the shoulders without feeling any pain, any pinching, any compression. Really nice. Breathing in, breathing out. So really thinking about really lifting the breath up and out into the side ribs, out into the back ribs. Couple more breaths. Really good. Then you can release those arms, maybe push the hands out, whatever feels nice, maybe just shrugging the shoulders, quite a lot on the arms. So options are pigeon pose or deer pose. So our pigeon pose, the piriformis stretch, or deer pose, where we actually sit on that hip and we have the right angle with the leg. If neither of those work for your knee or your back, you can lie on your on the back and take your figure four stretch. This foot could be rested on the wall as well. Okay, so I think you all know, if you're not sure, I always say go for deer. I really like this variation. Back leg can move away. And then you're folding over the front leg. Maybe take a cushion so you can rest the head on something, or maybe the head will rest on your hands. That's possible as well. Great. And if it's not working for you, then give me a wave. We can find a way in. Yeah, with the back hip, sometimes it can feel a bit pinchy. Great. So we're going to be here for a little while, and I'm going to try and talk less because I realise I talk quite a lot in the poses, and really by now we've been doing this for quite a few weeks now, a few months, so probably being with your breath is much easier, and you can really enjoy the silent moments and that state of quietness within. So adjust your body so you can be still. Notice if your attention gets drawn back up into your thinking mind, and keep encouraging yourself down into the breathing body, the feeling body. You've got 3 more minutes there. You have 2 more minutes there. Stay with your breath. Know that you may be opening up and therefore folding closer to the floor. You might need to move any props forwards. Final minute there. So come up really slowly walk your hands back up to the hips and roll to one side and just end up lying down on your back. Lie down on your back, close your eyes, probably in stillness, just feeling as that right hip begins to settle, feeling as the fluid begins to rush through the joint, around the joint again. And then when you're ready, coming up, and we'll come into the other side. So probably the left leg, unless you just did that, and probably the same pose, unless for some reason it hurts the knee. So you can come into pigeon or into deer. Sometimes the angle of the leg might look a little bit different. So in pigeon, maybe whereas before the foot was quite close to you, it comes more forwards, or maybe in deer, whereas the knee was quite close, it might come further back, closer forward. So just adjusting the position of the leg so that you can feel into that glute IT band area really well. So settle in and scan your body. How does it feel to be here? Allow your awareness to remain there in the body of awareness, of noticing, observing all that's going on in your 3 bodies. You have 3 more minutes there. 2 more minutes there. Remember, if the body is inviting you in deeper, you can always move the props, fold a little closer to the floor. Your final minute. Then, just as you did on the other side, really slowly, really gently, you can begin coming back up and come onto your back again. Lie down, be still, and this is called the rebound. Just noticing what happens as you release the pose. And we'll come into some internal rotation. So your feet are at least as wide as the mat, so more than hip width. And you're going to roll left knee in whilst right knee points up. So you might take the foot out even wider. Just letting that thigh roll in. Taking a few breaths. And you can lift that knee back up and send the other knee in. Right knee points over towards the left leg points up. And then finding your way into a position where you can be comfortable for the relaxation. So that may be legs straight, arms just out to the side. That might be knees bent, resting in together. Might be legs up the wall, feet or feet together, knees out to the side. So if you have a wall, you can end up with your heels, the bum on the wall. That's a really lovely, relaxing pose. Anywhere you're not going to be distracted by any discomfort, get comfortable. This final pose where we can absorb and put to memory all the rest of the practice, all that attention to breath, all that attention to the body. So hopefully we can then enjoy this still nothing pose, where we do nothing, we expect nothing. Showing up. Your practice doesn't expect you to show up happy. It asks that you be present. It doesn't mind if you are put together or if you are a mess. You can arrive with a jumbled mind and a heavy heart. Your practice couldn't care less if you could touch your toes or meditate for hours. It simply asks that you show up. Feel the support of the earth. Feel the effortlessness in your breath. Feel each breath releasing you deeper and deeper down. A complete letting go of the weight of your body down into the mat beneath you. Take a moment to notice how it feels to be in your body, here and now. Take control of the breath and take a few really long, relaxed breaths. Notice the inhalations. Feel them bringing you back, waking you up one breath at a time. Move the head gently side to side. Touch the thumbs against the fingertips. Feel the skin on the tips of your fingers. And then slowly begin to move your body. Maybe stretch the arms over the head, reach the toes away. Bending the knees, give your knees a big hug, saying thank you to your body. Eventually, you can roll over onto one side, keeping the eyes closed. And then finding your way up to seated, sitting nice and tall, eyes closed, shoulders and a face are soft. Inhale, take a big sweep up of the arms over the head. Palms touch and the thumb knuckles touch the crown of the head. Exhaling, forehead and all the way down to the mat. You can open your eyes. Thank you all for joining me this morning. If you enjoy the sunshine, let me press stop.